पॉलिसी बाजार पर 1 करोड़ रुपए का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस केवल 450 रुपए महीने से शुरू। वाव!
For the first time, foreign universities are expected to be able to set up their campuses in India. This as the University Grants Commission, or the UGC, has released a draft regulation. This for setting up and operation of campuses of foreign higher educational institutions in India. Now, what does this draft really say? It's a legal framework to allow global universities in India, but it's important to remember that currently it's a draft. These are not final regulations, and the final regulations are expected by January end, after the draft is being considered by stakeholders in this matter. Now, the draft says that foreign universities can operate in India with the UGC's approval. The universities will initially be granted a 10-year approval according to these rules. And interestingly, no online classes have been allowed for foreign universities in India. They have to mandatorily only have offline classes. They can't have online classes. Now, these institutions are allowed to repatriate funds to their parent campuses, and there'll be a full autonomy to hire faculty, staff from India or abroad according to the rules. And the final regulations, as I said, expected by January end. And the draft rules also say that the operations of these foreign universities in India can't be contrary to India's sovereignty, India's integrity and security. But what do these draft rules really mean? How could it change the prospects of foreign education aspirants in India? To understand all of that and more, we have guests joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Shantanu Rooj, who is the founder and CEO of TeamLease EdTech. We also have with us Dr. Raj Singh, who is the Vice Chancellor of Jain deemed to be University. If I can start with you, Mr. Rooj, first. There are lots of foreign education aspirants in India. Do you think that with foreign universities being allowed to set up their campuses in India, whenever it happens, that will really be a replacement or a substitute for students going abroad to study?
Not completely for sure, because there is an element of brand value for foreign campuses amongst employers. But then to a large extent, this is going to herald an era of high quality education in this country for sure. There are a lot of students who are unable to go to the countries like US, Australia or UK because of very high costs. These students will benefit from the Indianization of those costs there. On the other hand, these foreign universities, which are also supposed to be high quality, are going to challenge the Indian universities and create a different format of competition in the market.
Right. And Dr. Raj Singh, if I can come to you now, do you think the quality of education that, let's say, these foreign universities have in their own campus, for example, let's say an LSE would have in their own campus, do you think the same quality of education will be possibly maintained if they have their branches in India?
Well, this is what the draft regulations say, that they have to maintain the same quality which is at par with the parent campuses. Notwithstanding that, when they set up the campus, it will take a while before they're able to bring in the same quality. And of course, it depends on many other factors. It depends on the contents, it depends on the kind of faculty members they recruit and how much time they spend in Indian campuses. And what kind of training which is imparted by these universities to the faculty members. But certainly, yes, it will put pressure on the existing institutions and universities in India to respond to the quality requirements. You would agree with me that even we didn't have the regulations last 15, 20 years, many institutions had these collaborations with foreign universities, whether they used to come and teach here for a period or students used to go there. It did have an impact as far as the quality of education is concerned. And we could adopt with ease the outcome-based education which was implemented after 2014 when you became signatory to Washington Accord. Presence of foreign campuses in India will definitely create a healthy competition. But just one more point, the UGC as well as the government of India will have to seriously look at creating a level playing field for the Indian universities to respond to the quality requirements, in fact. And I'm sure Indian universities are already ready to respond to that. Overall, it's a welcome change. Building on what Shantanu said, the students who want to go abroad, they don't go there just because they can afford only. I think these students go there for more exposure to a multicultural kind of environment where they can interact with the students of different countries. These universities who set up campus in India will take a while before they're able to build that global community on the campuses. But certainly, yes, it's a move in the right direction.
Right. So, Dr. Singh, if I can ask you this, you must have gone through those UGC draft norms. Does it say anything about the fee? Will the fee that, let's say, an LBS charges in London, will they charge the same fee converted to INR in their campuses in India?
The draft regulations say that the fee which they fix should be transparent and reasonable.
Right.
Now we'll wait for detailed guidelines on how UGC or the Government of India will ensure reasonable fees. And of course, it has to be higher than the Indian universities. So competition is not something which I'm looking at. But yes, affordability, if one of the objectives is there, the final regulations will have to give more details about how the fixation of fees will take place, or they give full autonomy to these universities. Number
Right.
two,
Yeah,
the university will not be able to charge they will not be able to charge the fees with a charge in their parent campus because of the affordability of local students.
Right, of course,
They'll
we'll have to wait for the final regulations for a word on that. For now, the draft rules say that the fee has to be transparent. Mr. Shantanu Roj, you had a point.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point that it is worthy to note that this time the government is allowing universities run by even private companies, which are for-profit organizations, to run universities in this country and colleges in this country, which is going to a very different type of business from the perspective of Indian universities, which are run as non-profits or run by charitable organizations. So I'm not too sure it's creating a level playing field, and the motivation for both this type of organizations is the same. I think the devil lies in the details. We'd like to see what type of regulation government comes out in terms of governing these type of universities. Because if you see Indian universities today governed by regulations like NAC, like NIRF, all of these things tell them what type of money they will get from the government, what type of grants that they get, what are they expected to do, what they can do and what they can't do. And I think that from a governance perspective, what Dr. Singh said is extremely important, that it's important for the government to create a level playing field for the Indian universities and the colleges to be able to compete with them. Right. And because we believe that it's not necessarily important to be Western, to be modern. Indian universities are excellent otherwise in their own.
And a question that I myself have, and I think most students who might be looking at this decision and looking at this welcoming, that question is the value of that degree. So let's say if an individual gets a degree from a London School of Business in London and another gets a degree from their campus in India, will the two degrees hold the same value for a potential recruiter? What do you think on that?
This for me? Okay.
Mr. Roj, Mr. Shantanu Roj,
so obviously these universities which are these universities which are now being formed in the campuses we are being sent, obviously they are being born with a very different type of DNA. They're born with a higher signaling value, but the detail will lie in the way they execute this entire stuff. As Singh sir rightly said, that the type of faculty that you bring in, the type of projects that you do, type of student community that you create, all of these things will ultimately create the necessary outcome. At the end, these campuses at these universities will have to provide the return of investment to the learner. Over a period of time, it's possible to bring in the same value for them.
Right. Mr. Akshay Chaturvedi is also joining us. He's the founder and CEO of Leverage Edu and Fly Finance. So the two guests here, they are welcoming the move, but they're also saying that the regulations will have to ensure that the quality of education is maintained across campuses. What do you think? How will students receive this? Students who have aspirations to study in foreign universities, will they be able to get a substitute of that in their home country?
Hi, first of all, thanks for having me and Leverage on the show. Very quickly, of course, agree that quality has to be of the same standard, perhaps better. But I think I pretty much, my one big takeaway is the same thing that you were mentioning a minute ago. It all comes down to employability. Higher education today is not what it was in the last century. So universities, higher education in its whole sense is a conduit towards employability. So these campuses, in their own sense, will have to build their own reputation around recruiters, will have to kind of start from scratch around what regions are they going to be in, what kind of industries are they kind of really going to attract students for. And I think that is going to be a very big foray. We have seen how IIMs have expanded. We have seen how our IITs have expanded. Of course, the premier 7, 10, 15 IITs and IIMs, the kind of recruiter demand they essentially negotiate on the table. That's very different from everybody else who's come into the scene. So I think the same thing is going to happen. Of course, the University of Liverpool, which set up a massive campus in China, in fact, in the last decade. So this thing is played out in China as well, right? So when they played out the whole thing in China, the typical salary that a student graduating out of a China program was not comparable to the salary that somebody was getting in the UK, working with a large data science company there. So I think it will all come down to how the recruiters also look at it, and it will take a while for us to kind of get, for them to kind of build a fresh brand around themselves. So it's a great step in the right direction, but a lot more will have to be kind of done to get to a very, you would say, a place where Indian students can think of these options at the same levels at which they think about in terms of a tier 1 institutes in India.
Right, of course. As you said, at the end of it, it all boils down to employability. And if you can get a job at par with students who are studying in foreign universities, so for that, the quality will really have to be maintained. And while we're talking about quality and the possible prospects that students can get, Dr. Raj Singh, if I can come to you on this point, the UGC has clearly ruled out online classes for these foreign universities that might want to have branches in India. So they can only have offline classes, but they can't have online classes at all. But this is a provision that's available to Indian universities. So what do you think on that? Will that be a sort of disadvantage for these foreign universities?
I understand it this way that for any regular degree in India, up to 40% online content delivery is permitted. I'm not sure it is being extended to the foreign universities or not. The draft regulations are not clear. Maybe in the final regulation we'll get some clarity on this. But definitely full-time education is a different ball game altogether. We have seen that as we have risen out of the COVID pandemic, believe me, on campuses, faculty members as well as students are not really interested in online teaching because they believe that face-to-face teaching can't be substituted, even though some percentage is still going on because of logistical reasons. And hopefully even these universities will be allowed to deliver at least part of the education in online mode. It's also coming from the fact that a recent notification of UGC said that as far as accumulation of credits is concerned, online distance learning as well as regular degrees, the credits will be treated at par and they will have to be deposited in academic credit. I don't know whether ABC will be applicable to these universities or not. So a lot of details we are still awaiting, which are not mentioned in these draft regulations. The other thing which I want to bring in is that it also depends a lot on whether these universities will set up a greenfield campuses in India or they will be setting up campus in joint venture with existing institutions who already have infrastructure. To my mind, initially there will be hesitation to bring in entire capital investing in the infrastructure in India, and they will be looking at more partnering with the existing institution. If that be so, the cultural fit or misfit will also play a role, how much time it takes before these campuses are able to come up to the same level as their parent campuses. So this we need to keep in mind.